Achilles is described by Homer as the best of the Greeks. He is the preeminent ancient Greek hero and the central character in Homer's epic poem, the Iliad, which is probably the most famous telling of the myth of the Trojan War. Composed around 700 BC, the Iliad only, in fact, tells a small part of the story of Troy, and only a small part of the story of Achilles, too. The rest of the tale was told in other works of Greek and Roman literature, as well as through the imagery of Greek, Etruscan, and Roman art. This talk gives a short overview of the myth of the Trojan War and Achilles' part in it. The stories of Achilles and the Trojan War both start in the same place, the wedding of a sea goddess, Thetis, and a mortal man, Peleus. All the gods are invited, except Discord, or Eris in Greek. Disgruntled, Eris throws a golden apple into the party and 3 goddesses fight over it, as it's marked for the most beautiful. Zeus, king of the gods, asks Trojan prince Paris to judge, and he gives the apple to Aphrodite, goddess of love, because she has bribed him with the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. This is Helen, but she's already married to a Greek king, Menelaus, and Menelaus is most displeased when Paris whisks away his wife. A huge Greek army is mustered under the leadership of Menelaus' brother Agamemnon, another Greek king, to reclaim Helen for her husband. So off they sail to Troy, over on the west coast of what's now Turkey. And this is the start of the Trojan War, which rages on for 10 years. So what about Achilles? Well, he is the baby born of the newly married couple, Peleus and Thetis, at whose wedding the trouble began. Hang on, you might think. How come Achilles ends up fighting at Troy if he's only born after the wedding which starts the war? It is just about reconcilable as a continuous narrative because there are some long delays before the war really gets going. Achilles' mother, Thetis, remember, is an immortal goddess, but his father is mortal, and so Achilles is mortal too, and a prophecy has foretold that he will die at Troy. Thetis does everything she can to save him from this fate, desperate to protect her son. When he's a baby, she dips him into the waters of the river Styx, the river of the underworld, to try to render him invincible to injury. She holds him by the ankle or the heel, and that part remains unprotected as his only vulnerable point, giving rise to the expression Achilles Heel. When the Greeks begin mustering their forces for the Trojan War, Thetis hides her son away. She disguises him as a girl in the court of King Lycomedes on the island of Skyros. While there, Achilles has a child with the king's daughter, and this son, Neoptolemus, will also later fight at Troy. The Greek heroes Odysseus and Diomedes track Achilles down on Skyros. They trick him into revealing himself, and he joins the Greek army. He leads a contingent of Myrmidons from the area of Greece which his family controls. Achilles has been well trained for battle, as well as educated by the wise centaur Chiron, and he's a skilled and effective warrior. He's considered the best fighter among the Greeks at Troy. The war doesn't go well for the Greeks for a long time. Troy is a well-defended city with strong walls, and the Greeks find themselves stuck in a long siege. They set up camp on the beach near the city. 9 long years pass, and in the 10th year, we reach the part of the story which is told in the Iliad, revolving around the anger of Achilles. The Iliad begins with the words, "Rage, goddess, sing the rage of Peleus' son, Achilles." During these initial years, the Greeks have been raiding neighbouring Trojan cities, enslaving some of their people. Among them is Briseis, a young woman who's been given to Achilles as a prize of honour. But now King Agamemnon, the leader of the Greek forces, seizes Briseis for himself. Furious at this affront to his honour, Achilles withdraws from battle together with his troops, and his mother, Thetis, asks Zeus to favour the Trojans for a while to make Agamemnon regret dishonouring her son. Fighting rages on, and the Trojans gain ground, setting up camp on the plain, worryingly close to the Greek ships. Achilles has a close friend, Patroclus. Friends since childhood and comrades in battle, they were probably also lovers. Certainly the men are extremely close. At this point in the story, desperate to drive back the Trojans while Achilles is still refusing to fight, Patroclus disguises himself in the armour of Achilles, and he leads Achilles' Myrmidon warriors into battle, hoping to raise Greek morale and intimidate the Trojans. At first, this works, but then Patroclus is killed by the Trojan prince Hector, Paris's brother and the preeminent Trojan fighter. Absolutely overcome with grief-stricken rage, desperate for vengeance against Hector, Achilles sets aside his quarrel with Agamemnon and returns to battle, wearing new armour, which is brought to him by his goddess mother. Achilles is victorious, and Hector is killed. But this isn't enough to satisfy Achilles' vengeful anger. He departs from all the norms of Greek warfare, and instead of returning the body for burial, he ties Hector's dead body to his chariot and drags it repeatedly in the dirt, driven by his grief to behave like a monster. The gods take pity on Hector and his grieving family, preserving Hector's body from damage, and the messenger god Hermes helps Hector's father Priam, the king of Troy, to get secretly into the Greek camp. Priam begs Achilles for the ransom of his son's body. Achilles is moved to pity and he agrees to Priam's request. It's an extraordinary, moving episode which restores Achilles' humanity. The funeral of Hector can now take place, and this is the point where the Iliad finishes. But there's still much more of the story to tell. More allies come to help Troy. These include the Amazons, female warriors led by their queen, Penthesilea. Achilles kills her in battle. But another story tells how he tragically looks into her eyes and falls in love with her just at the moment of her death. Achilles knows that he too is fated to die young, for his divine mother foretold that he would have a choice, a short and glorious life if he stayed to fight at Troy, or a long life in obscurity if he stopped fighting and returned home. Of course, he chose to stay when he returned to the fighting to avenge the death of Patroclus. And in the end, it is Paris, the Trojan prince, the one who stole Helen and started the war, who kills Achilles, hitting him with an arrow in that one weak spot in his heel. Troy ultimately falls too. The great city is destroyed in the end by a trick, the wooden horse, in which Greek fighters are smuggled into the city and emerge at night and let in the army. The Trojan men and boys are killed. The women and girls are enslaved. Only a few Trojans escape. They follow Aeneas, another member of the Trojan royal family, on a journey to Italy, where they will found the city of Rome. The Greeks make their way home, but few of them enjoy a happy ending. Many, most famously Odysseus, undergo further trials on their journeys and on their return home. Helen, though, is reclaimed by her Greek husband Menelaus, and they return to their old life in Sparta. This story of war and the tragic deaths of heroes has enraptured audiences for some 3,000 years, and it continues to do so today. Troy is a real place, excavated most famously by Heinrich Schliemann in the 19th century, and a place which archaeologists continue to explore and study today. The tantalizing question of whether the events described in the mythical story of Troy have any basis in reality contributes to making the story of Troy so fascinating today. But what makes it so powerful, whether or not it has any basis in fact, is its compelling characters like Achilles and its wide range of deeply human themes: love, loss, courage, passion, violence, vengeance, triumph, and tragedy, all played out on a genuinely epic scale.